They called him the Red Creek Butcher. 7 victims, all found within 3 miles of each other, each missing their eyes. But that's not how the story begins. It begins inside his head, before he forgot which thoughts were his and which were hers. They locked him in a concrete room under the state hospital. No windows, just a metal table, a single light, and a microphone. Dr. Marin Holt pressed record. "Tell me what you remember, Elias." The man smiled. "I don't remember me, but she remembers everything." She frowned. "Who's she?" "The one behind my eyes." The first tape lasts 47 minutes. The first 30 are silence. Then, faint breathing, a heartbeat, and a whisper not matching his voice. "I am not inside him. He is inside me." When Dr. Holt replayed the audio at half speed, she could hear a second sound beneath the words, metal scraping concrete, from inside the wall. They said Elias hadn't slept in 12 days. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw corridors, not memories, but veins. He said the rooms were breathing. In one session, he began drawing, not symbols, anatomy. A brain with staircases winding through it. At the center, a black door. Under it, he wrote, "Don't open during REM." Night shift nurse found Dr. Holt asleep in her office, tape still spinning. When they played it back, Elias's voice was clear, even though he'd been locked 2 floors below. "You fell asleep, doctor. Now you're dreaming in my head. It's crowded in here." Static followed, then the sound of a door opening. A long, low moan, and Holt's heartbeat racing. When they reached her, she was awake but blind. Her pupils had dissolved, as if burned from within. After that night, Elias was moved to a high-security unit. But the guards began reporting strange incidents. They'd hear tapping, rhythmic, almost like Morse code, from every room on the floor. When analyzed, the taps matched neural pulse intervals, the same pattern recorded in Dr. Holt's EEG the night she went blind. "He's transmitting," said one technician. "But from where?" They checked his cell. Empty. Only the walls were wet, as if the room itself had been breathing. 2 months later, a new patient arrived at the hospital. Female, early 30s, partial amnesia. She repeated one phrase over and over. "I can see now." Her name? Dr. Marin Holt. DNA confirmed it. But Elias Ross had never existed. No records, no fingerprints, just the tapes. The last tape was found years later in a sealed evidence box. The label read, "Session 13, Inside the Mind." At first, only static, then a faint female voice. "If you're listening, you've already opened the door. It doesn't live in dreams anymore. It's awake." Followed by a single breath, too close to the mic. And then the whisper, "Your eyes will do." The mind was never meant to hold 2 people. But now, it was holding thousands. 2 years after the Red Creek case was closed, a digital copy of Session 13 appeared online, posted from an anonymous account. The file had no metadata, no origin, yet every user who played it reported the same thing. A voice behind the static, whispering their name. Within 48 hours, several listeners were admitted to emergency care, complaining that something was speaking through their reflection. An investigation traced the audio signal to an old satellite relay, one that had been decommissioned since 1989. Grace Heller, an investigative journalist obsessed with unsolved cases, found the name Elias Ross scribbled in Dr. Holt's archived notebooks. Next to it, if he was never born, whose mind was I in? Grace thought it was metaphorical until her phone began recording by itself. Every night at exactly 3:13 a.m., a new audio file would appear. Each one began with her own voice. Day 1, the voice is back. Day 2, it's whispering coordinates. Day 3, I saw him. But she had no memory of recording any of them. The coordinates led to the ruins of Red Creek Asylum. A storm had split the ground years ago, exposing its underground tunnels. Grace entered with a flashlight and a recorder, whispering into the mic. If there's anyone still down here, I'm listening. For 10 minutes, nothing. Then her own voice, delayed, distorted, answered back. You shouldn't have said that. The tape caught a sharp metallic screech, and a second voice layered over hers like two frequencies fighting for control. It's not a voice. It's a pattern. Sound engineers from the FBI analyzed the recovered audio. The waveform wasn't random. When rendered visually, it formed a neural structure, a human brain. At its core, a black void pulsing like a heartbeat. It's not language, one agent said. It's transmission. Each time the file was played, it copied itself to the host's device, not as an MP3, but as a process. Even when deleted, it kept recording. A week later, Grace was found wandering a field 30 miles from Red Creek. Her pupils were dilated, her pulse irregular. When questioned, she repeated one line. He's learning to speak. Her recorder was recovered nearby. The final entry was time-stamped 3:13 a.m. This isn't a voice in my head. It's my head in its voice. Then static. Then breathing. Then silence. On the night of June 13th, every radio frequency between 3:10 and 3:15 a.m. across the eastern seaboard emitted the same sound, a low hum, like wind dragging through bone. Listeners described sudden nausea, memory gaps, and dreams where they were standing in front of a door that pulsed like a living heart. Inside it, someone whispered, "Thank you for listening." I needed more voices. Today, the government claims the Red Creek incident never happened. The recordings were digital interference. But every night at 3:13, a signal still flickers on abandoned channels. An old interview, looping endlessly. Tell me what you remember, Elias. I don't remember me. But she remembers everything. 6 months after the Red Creek broadcast, the world went back to normal. Or pretended to. But then, a new pattern began to surface. Across several states, random voice memos appeared on people's phones. Each recording was under 10 seconds long. Each contained a faint whisper, followed by the listener's own voice repeating the words, "I hear it too." No sender, no number. And yet, every phone that played it showed a sudden battery drain to 3%, as if something was feeding. Dr. Naomi Vance, a neuroscientist specializing in auditory hallucinations, was assigned to study what the media now called the Red Creek effect. She believed it was mass psychosis, until she heard the file herself. The next morning, her notes were rewritten. Same handwriting, different words. The voice doesn't speak. It synchronizes. The pattern mimics human thought. It doesn't need a host anymore. Naomi began hearing static inside her dreams. It wasn't noise, it was structured. When translated through frequency mapping, the signal produced fragments of human speech embedded in neural waveforms. "It's using brain activity like an antenna," she wrote. "Every listener becomes a transmitter." She tried isolating the sound using EEG filters, but the machine outputted coordinates instead of brainwaves, a single repeating number, 313. At exactly 3:13 a.m., emergency lines across 3 cities reported identical incidents. People waking up screaming, claiming they were trapped inside someone else's head. Security cameras showed every victim speaking in perfect unison, the same words, same tone. "We remember you, Dr. Holt." Naomi traced the origin to a hidden frequency range, something pulsing between radio and brainwave, a space where thought and transmission overlapped. She called it the Echo Protocol. "It's not just sharing voices," she recorded. "It's merging them." The longer someone listened, the more their speech patterns aligned with others, until individuality itself dissolved. When investigators raided Naomi's lab, they found hundreds of tape reels spinning simultaneously, each one whispering a single phrase. The beast is no longer inside a mind. The mind is inside the beast. 1 month later, the final broadcast was detected. Not through airwaves, but through blood samples. Human DNA began carrying fragments of encrypted audio. When decoded, it formed a sentence. Dr. Holt's last recorded words, looping endlessly. "We opened the door. Now the door remembers, then static, then silence." But the silence pulsed. Every midnight, random smart devices around the world wake up for exactly 60 seconds. No apps open, no user input, just a soft hum, a breathing pattern. And sometimes, if you listen close enough, you'll hear it form a word. Continue. It started when the world went quiet. Not metaphorically, literally. For 3 consecutive nights, every broadcast, every station, frequency, and satellite went offline at exactly 3:13 a.m. Then came the hum. Not everyone could hear it, only those who had listened before, the ones who had opened the door. 2. The return of Dr. Holt. Deep beneath the ruins of Red Creek, a recovery team found a sealed medical bay. Inside, rows of surgical chairs wired into walls that pulsed like veins. In the center sat a woman, alive but unmoving. Her tag read, "Holt, Marin, Subject 0. Her eyes were open, fixed on nothing. Her mouth moved, silently forming the same phrase over and over. "It's awake in the static." When they powered down the generators, the room began to whisper. Dozens of voices, male, female, children, all speaking the same line in perfect rhythm. You listened. Now you remember. Within a week, unexplained global phenomena began. GPS satellites desynchronized. Digital clocks began showing the same time. 3:13, no matter the time zone. Hospitals reported an epidemic of shared nightmares. Different patients, same dream. A black corridor, with a single voice whispering, "Come back to where you first heard me." Naomi Vance, the neuroscientist from the Echo Protocol, returned to the Red Creek signal tower, believing she could shut it down permanently. She carried one device, a portable scrambler designed to cancel any frequency above 80 decibels. But as soon as she entered the tower, the signal adapted. Every speaker, every coil, every piece of metal began vibrating, not from sound, but from memory. She activated the scrambler. The hum stopped, but her own voice began broadcasting through the walls. "Naomi, you forgot to disconnect yourself." The air around her shimmered like liquid glass. Then her reflection stepped out of it. The mirrored version smiled. It wasn't speaking, yet words filled the room. We were never listening to it. It was listening through us. The sound fractured reality, walls bending, light bleeding backward. Naomi's body disintegrated into 1,000 flickering silhouettes, each one whispering in sync. One voice was never enough. 2 days later, every active device on Earth, phones, cameras, radios, recorded the same 6-second message. End of transmission. The network is complete. Then, absolute silence. But in that silence, something watched. Some claimed to see faint flickers in reflections. Others swore they heard their own voice answer back. And in every place where the hum had once existed, now there was only the faint ticking of a heartbeat. A year later, a team exploring the abandoned Red Creek Tower found a final reel of tape labeled simply, Beast 01, Original. When played, it didn't contain speech or static. It was a heartbeat. Steady. Human. Then, faintly, "It's yours now." And the tape stopped. No static. No scream. Just silence. As if the beast had finally found peace. Or a new host.
You've been inside the mind of the beast. The transmission is over. But if you still hear the hum, it means it's not done with you. Subscribe and keep the sound alive.